The United States is seeking a United Nations Security Council resolution calling on Venezuela to conduct free, fair and credible presidential elections with international observers. The U.S. move has prompted Russia to propose a rival resolution, essentially raising concerns over outside interference in Venezuela's internal affairs. Moscow has refused to support a U.S.-led campaign to recognize Venezuelan opposition leader and head of the country's elected National Assembly Juan Guaido as president and continues to back Venezuelan leader Nicolas Maduro. Guaido last month declared himself interim president, challenging Maduro's rule. More than 40 nations, including the U.S., major European powers, including Germany, and most of Latin America have recognized Guaido as the country's interim head of state. The U.S. drafted resolution, which was discussed privately on Friday by diplomats from the 15 Security Council members, expresses full support for the National Assembly as the only democratically elected institution in Venezuela. It also calls for the immediate start of a political process leading to free, fair and credible presidential elections, with international electoral observation, in line with Venezuela's constitution. The draft resolution expresses concerns over violence and excessive use of force by Venezuelan security forces against unarmed, peaceful protesters. Read more. Venezuela's political crisis, how did we get here? Russia's rival resolution. During discussions on the draft resolution, Russia, which has accused Washington of backing a coup attempt in Venezuela, proposed an alternative text, diplomats said. The Russian draft expresses concern over the attempts to intervene in matters which are essentially within the domestic jurisdiction. It also expresses concern over the threats to use force against the territorial integrity and political independence of Venezuela. U.S. President Donald Trump has not ruled out a military intervention in the Latin American country. It was unclear if or when either draft Security Council resolution could be put to a vote. Read more. What's at stake for Russia and Venezuela? Humanitarian aid. The U.S. draft resolution is pushing the Security Council to facilitate the delivery of humanitarian aid for Venezuela. Washington has accused Maduro of blocking its shipments of food and medicines for the Venezuelans. Earlier this week, Maduro ridiculed the U.S. for offering small amounts of assistance while maintaining sanctions that block billions of offshore assets and revenue. Maduro blames U.S. sanctions for his country's economic woes. Venezuela is struggling with hunger, preventable diseases and hyperinflation. AFP, Reuters. Each evening at 18:30 UTC, DW's editors send out a selection of the day's hard news and quality feature journalism. You can sign up to receive it directly here. In March 2017, violent protests erupted across the country in response to a Supreme Court decision to strip the legislative branch of its powers. Amid an international outcry, President Nicolas Maduro reversed the decision, but it was too late. Thousands continued to take to the streets, calling for new elections. More than 100 people were killed in clashes with security forces. The violence added to the ongoing economic and political crisis in Venezuela. Many Venezuelans spend more than 30 hours a week waiting in lines to shop, and are often confronted with empty shelves when they finally enter a store. President Maduro blames the crisis on U.S. price speculation. The opposition, however, accuses the socialist government of economic mismanagement. The crisis has even affected healthcare in the oil-rich nation. Venezuelans often head to Colombia to collect medical supplies to send home, as seen in this picture. Hospitals across Venezuela have compared conditions to those seen only in war zones. As patient deaths rise, health officials have sounded the alarm on the rise of malaria and dengue fever. By July 2017, Venezuela's pro-government Constituent Assembly was established. For observers, it had all the hallmarks of a power grab. The new body adopted the authority to pass legislation on a range of issues, effectively taking away the powers of Venezuela's elected Congress, which was under the opposition's control. The move drew wide international condemnation. In response to the political crisis, the United States and European Union imposed a series of sanctions against ruling officials. The U.S. blacklisted members of the Constituent Assembly and froze all of Maduro's assets that are subject to U.S. jurisdiction. The EU banned arms sales to the country. In October 2017, Venezuela held two votes, regional elections and elections for governors, which were long overdue. The opposition boycotted the vote, but then split, as some candidates and small parties chose to participate. This caused a deep rift within Maduro's opponents. The government went on to sweep the vote, which detractors say was unfair and heavily favored the regime. In November 2017, the oil-rich, cash-poor nation faced its day of reckoning. Credit ratings agencies declared Venezuela and its state-run oil company in selective default. But Russia offered to restructure the South American country's debt to ensure Caracas pays its other creditors. U.S. and EU sanctions, however, limited the chance of an agreement. The National Assembly announced in January 2018 that it would grant Maduro's call for snap presidential elections. The Electoral Authority, CNE, held the elections on May 20. The EU, the U.S., and 14 Latin American nations warned that they would not recognize the results. The mainstream MUD opposition alliance boycotted the vote, leaving only one possible outcome. Maduro was re-elected to a second six-year term with about 68% of the vote. Turnout was only 46%, according to electoral authorities. However, the MUD opposition alliance put turnout at less than 30%. The Organization of American States, OAS, called the elections neither free nor fair. But weeks into the new year, the situation took a drastic turn. On January 23, 2019, Parliament President Juan Guaido declared himself interim president of Venezuela, a move that was quickly recognized by U.S. President Donald Trump. Maduro called it a U.S.-backed coup. Days later, the U.S. sanctioned Venezuela's state oil firm, while Guaido staked his claim on the country's foreign assets.